to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Cathy Donaldson, Administrative Assistant at the NIAAA office at Keystone Crossing in Indianapolis, Indiana. Cathy, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation and the world where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Well, I grew up in Michigan City, Indiana. That is in the northwest corner of Indiana on Lake Michigan. It was a great place to grow up. I loved spending a lot of time at the beach on Lake Michigan and going out to the lighthouse, watching boats come and go. And my parents were born and raised there too. So, and I'm actually the only Hoosier left in my family, which is weird. But anyway, I do have an older brother and a younger sister, middle child. I worked a variety of jobs throughout high school and college. I attended DePauw University, which is a small liberal arts university in Greencastle, Indiana. That's where I met my husband of almost 43 years. I also, while in college, I affiliated with Delta Gamma fraternity, which is really a sorority, but we're called a fraternity. But our motto is do good, and that really resonates with me. And since college, I've served as alumni capacity, various local, regional, and national leadership positions. Currently, I'm serving as House Corporation Board President for my alma mater in my chapter of initiations. So it's it's just for me, I gain life skills, leadership skills, and it's my way of paying it back and paying it forward, I guess, at the same time. So I've been told I have a servant's heart, and it's true. I think I do. I've been very active in my church and served in a lot of different leadership positions there, and in junior league, my school's PTO, and other community organizations. I just like giving back. So
that is excellent. Let's have you talk about your younger days. Were you involved in sports at all as a young lady?
Well, yes, I've always been very athletic. I have an older brother who I always wanted to keep up with. And I don't know if they do this anymore, but in grade school, they would have this presidential award of honor for fitness. And so
right.
I actually got that. I thought that was so cool. And so I achieved that. And then in my junior high years, I played in a community softball league, and that was a lot of fun. And I would participate in track and field events. I'm a runner by nature, and unfortunately, it was before Title IX. So Title IX came in during my high school years, but it was basketball and golf were the only two women's sports offered at my high school. So, but as an adult, I've continued to stay active. I've run in so many half marathons and other races. And so it's just, I think staying physically active has just been a great way to keep one grounded in many ways. So I'm proud to say I'm still active, and I play pickleball now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
and I don't play, but I understand that for those of us that may be a little bit north of 40 years old, that you don't have to run as far as tennis.
No, you don't. You don't. It's wonderful. My husband and I play, and we'll play doubles with another couple, and it's just a fun sport. So it's really taken off too, I hear. So,
Cathy, let's have you talk for a minute about some of the mentors and leaders in your life that made a huge difference to you.
oh boy. I have been so blessed to have a lot of great people along my life's journey. My parents specifically, they just always supported me in anything I wanted to do or try, and they encouraged that. And I had a great high school teacher who just pushed me to excel, made me come out of my shell a little bit. Um, yeah, and I've had my first boss was a great mentor. I graduated with a degree in, well, from DePaul with the communications and English composition, and I had a business and minor. But my first boss, I worked in hospital public relations, which they didn't call it that back then. They called it hospital relations. So, but she was wonderful and kind of took me under her wing and really helped mentor me so that I was able to go on to become a director of public relations at another hospital in Indianapolis. So, yeah, I've just been so blessed. And I think the one person that's inspired me and challenged me and all intellectually, spiritually, has been my husband. I just so admire him, and he's just a great teammate.
That is great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute now. You mentioned earlier you had a background in hospital administration a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How does someone who has a background in hospitals and healthcare all of a sudden come to work for the NIAAA? Talk to our audience about how that happened.
Well, I've had some gaps in there because I have two daughters. They're now grown. I have 7 grandchildren. So I did take some time off, but my volunteer work kind of kept my skills active and so forth. And then, like I say, I've always worked in the non-for-profit sector. It's just a place where I feel called and just really enjoy. In my prior job, it was going through some industry contractual change or contractions rather, and they did a reorganization. And my job, unfortunately, was eliminated after COVID. So, one of my former coworkers from that job said, "Hey, there's this opening at the NIAAA. Their office is right next to mine." And I thought, really? And so I looked into it, and I thought, oh, this sounds fun. And then I went online and did a lot of research about the vision and the mission of NIAAA. And I thought, oh wow, this is awesome. So I applied for it, and Mike Blackburn replied and said, "Why don't you come in and talk to us?" So I did, and I'm not kidding. The moment I came through the doors, it was like I felt at home. I get really nervous, but Mike has this great demeanor about him that just sets people at ease. And so does Phil. So I just felt so I don't know, I just felt welcomed, and it just felt so right. And I've done a lot in my career, and I think Mike thought I might be overqualified, but I said, I've done so much. My role now I see in life is to support others. I want to be that teammate that just is there to support everyone else. So, titles don't really matter to me anyway, but I just love being here. And my first day at work, it felt like Christmas. Everyone greeted me, and I have all this NIAAA gear, and I thought, wow, I really hit the jackpot. So I feel blessed. And I don't even like to call it work because it's a joy. It's a joy to work with great people, not just the staff here, but all the volunteers, people that serve this organization and give and just the general membership. They're just wonderful people. So they're truly servants at heart too. And I love that.
I I was speaking with Rich Barton last week, and he relayed a story to me, not to embarrass you, but he said
Oh,
there was some fellow on the phone that was waiting to talk to either he or Becky. I can't remember which one it was, but apparently you spent some time with him on the phone, and he told Rich after he was done speaking with him that he says, I don't know who that person was I talked to that answered the phone, but she is a great person. She just made me feel at home. And so I think that's great. That's a great compliment to you.
oh, thank you. I know who you're talking about, and he's a sweetheart.
Mm.
So he's from Louisiana.
Let's talk for a minute about, and you've had this job for a year and a half ish. Am I right on that neighborhood?
Well, yeah, it'll be 2 years in 1st of November. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit over a year and a half. From your perspective, working in the NIAAA office, has the job of athletic administrator changed just in the time you've been there? If it has changed, what are some of the different things you're seeing?
Well, I wish I had a little bit more. I wish I had a few more years so I feel I could be better qualified to answer that question. Um, I do see the challenges that are, and I hear about them, through various channels. Um, just there's so much now that ADs have to deal with that. I don't think a lot maybe their past predecessors had as much of the intensity of it, but parents, are unruly fans, and particularly these parents who are helicopter parents, and
Hmm.
they can be so obnoxious, and it's just so sad to see that kind of behavior, because you're not setting a lesson or a good example. You're not being a good role model for your children or others. And so I see that. I see and hear about the challenge it is to find officials to officiate games because of that behavior, the hostile environment that can, be directed towards officials. The work-life balance. My best friend and actually maid of honor, her dad was an athletic director in Michigan City. And I saw the time he spent just, at supporting all the coaches in the different sports, and he wouldn't get home till later on. And so that's such a challenge for people to find that work-life balance, because that's critical. You've got to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. So I see that. And then just navigating the changes in our society, with especially there's, those issues of transgenders and all of that. I mean, it's just, there's so much that is thrown at our athletic directors and coaches, and others and staff. So it's a lot to navigate.
Added some great insight. Thank you so much for sharing. I want you now to take a few minutes and just reflect on the just under 2 years you've had at the NIAAA. Reflect on that time. Reflect on possibly some of the things that have happened to you, and the association you mentioned a little bit earlier about the association you get with people across the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. I my first conference was in Denver, and so which was, we were coming out of COVID, but there was still a lot of uncertainty about that. And then last year in Nashville, it was just so dynamic to see the enthusiasm and um, people were so excited to see each other and get together, and the networking, and the fact that we had over 900 new athletic directors attend, and the way that more senior, or more experienced athletic directors took them under their wing and were so welcoming to them. And it was just gratifying from a staff perspective to have that excitement around us. And we're really looking forward to Orlando. And we're already close to 1,100 people have signed up. When you think about it, we've just been open not quite a month yet. And so registration's going nuts. And so, but that's exciting. So it's going to be another great conference. And it's, yeah, I just love being a part of that and that dynamic.
Allow me to ask a follow-up. You mentioned the Denver conference and then the Nashville conference. You did mention that we were coming out of COVID. We were still had to wear the masks and stuff. But delve a little bit more into that Nashville conference. You did mention it's been the largest attended. We had the most first-time attendees, but the spread out and how big it was spread out at the hotel, and talk a little bit more about that Nashville conference.
Well, I did get lost a few times, but no, it was like I said, it was, I think there was just such a nice air about, I don't know, it just had really good energy to the conference and from the get-go. And people were, registration always can be, it can get frustrating for those who are waiting. They're in the back of a line somewhere, but we got everybody through, and hopefully we tried to address everybody's issues, maybe changing classes or just navigating the hotel, the venue. And so it was great. People were so patient and so nice. And of course, it was kind of bittersweet for some of the staff because, Mike was retiring.
Right.
And, but it was, it was so gratifying to see the affection, from everyone poured out for him. And it well-deserved, of course. And of course, he hated every moment of it because he's so humble. But that was really a highlight, seeing Mike be recognized for his years of service. So, and always the new leadership that comes in and saying, best wishes. Don't go too far for those outgoing board members and committee members. So, it's nice to meet and have that time with the board when they come in, or the PDA staff or committees. So it's great. And it's a great group of people.
Let's have you delve into a minute about the challenges of working with close to 1,500 members, most of them in the US, but some in Canada. And then, of course, we have an international branch now. So you've been there almost 2 years. I want you to talk about, when you talk about the bare bones staff we have at the NIAAA office serving 15,000 members, that's incredible. So talk about some of the challenges and the blessings that come from that.
Well, I don't know that we see, when we watch our numbers increase, membership, we get so excited because it's just, it's an opportunity to serve more and to better ourselves to meet those needs. I don't know that we look at it so much as challenges, but more opportunities. How can we be better? How can we meet the needs of our, membership? The world keeps changing, and society is changing, and so it's a good challenge for us and an opportunity for us to keep growing, expanding, and pushing the envelope out and becoming creative. And how can we maximize our resources to better serve others? So we are a small staff. I love my coworkers. They're so talented. We're very collaborative. Everyone has a special gift and everyone has different skills, and we bring those together, and we learn from each other. And I just love our staff meetings, and we read books, like leadership and how can we be better? How can we connect? And because it's all about the people. It's all about the people. And they're the reasons why we're here, is to serve our membership. And that's our focus. That's our daily focus. every day, like, how can we better ourselves to serve our membership? So I love that. It's, we want to continue to grow. So
Excellent. Let's have you talk for a minute about the NIAAA family. I bring this up with quite a bit of our national guests. Apparently, you experienced the NIAAA family when you went to the office for the first time for the interview. So explain to people who aren't quite only new members possibly, or people that may hear this that are not members of the association, that unity that the NIAAA brings, because it's hard to describe.
yeah. Well, I think it just started. Unfortunately, I didn't work under Bruce Whitehead, but I've had the honor and privilege to work, but I've been around Bruce a lot. So I really think, from the get-go, and I don't mean to leave out Frank Kovaleski at all, but my more experiences with a little bit with Bruce, but Mike Blackburn, of course, and Phil. I mean, they've created this culture of we're a family. I mean, honestly, when we think about it, we spend more time with each other than we do probably with our own families. We're together 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours a day, just depending on the season, what's going on. And Mike just created this. It just so impressed me, because in previous places where I've worked, it didn't happen like this, but he would just make a point, everyone was settled, come in for the day, and then he'd go down the hall, by offices or wherever people were located, and how are you? How's your dog? How's this? How's that? He remembers things. He invested himself in us, in our family, our personal lives. And Phil has done the same thing. And our family members are welcome to come to events, which is so nice because it's broadened our circles, and it's just, like I say, it's very nice because you don't have any kind of competitiveness where that can exist in some office cultures. It's just everyone's just willing to chip in and help each other. I'm not the most, I've learned a lot with technology, but I go to the young people like, Nellie, what's going on? How do I do this? I always try really hard. I Google things and I try to figure it out, but after a while, like, okay, I'm wasting time. I just need to ask one of my experts, my young people. And they're so gracious about helping and teaching. And I don't know, everyone has something to offer, and we just get along so well. And like I say, I look forward to coming to work. So, and it's because of that atmosphere, that culture that Mike and Phil and Bruce, established. And we're all respected for who we are and what gifts we bring to the table. So
well said. Cathy, what's the favorite part of your job?
well, I think it's probably I like talking to the members. Well, of course, I like being with my teammates. But I like the gentleman from Louisiana. It's just so fun to hear about people and what they're doing, and they're just so gracious and nice, and I like that. And sometimes, a lot of times I help people, especially right now, people like, oh, I've forgotten my NIAAA member number and I need to register for the conference. And so I go, oh, hey, I'll help you, and so then I'll reset their password for them, and then I'll kind of joke with them a little bit, just because it's not a real sophisticated password. But it's just, I don't know. I just try to find some kind of common ground. And I want them, when they call to the office, I want them to hear a friendly voice, and I want them to always feel open and welcomed by this office, that we're here to serve them. And that needs to be I just want to always present that to them.
Let's finish up with a couple of questions, Cathy. The first one being, you've got 2 suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator. They need to follow Cathy's 2 suggestions in order to be successful. What would your 2 suggestions be?
I think they have to have a strong passion for serving our youth, our students, our student athletes. I think that passion just has to come from within and have that desire to, because not every day is easy. So, but you have to have that tenacity, which comes from that passion. So I think that's really critical. And I think you just have to have a really strong sense of yourself, be grounded morally, ethically. Just know, because you're the role model. And so you have to demonstrate strength, and you have to demonstrate what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes it's hard to call someone out, but if you're not, you have to be a strong leader, and you have to be willing to call people out and, nip some behaviors in the bud, so to speak, and just say, hey, let's look at this in a different way. So I think good leaders do that. They have this strong sense of the strong moral compass inside, and and that comes maybe with the passion and all of that. So but I think that takes a person with a lot of fortitude. So
we'll finish with this, Cathy. What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe my hobbies or my passion.
Okay, let's have you just spend the closing moments and talk about your passion.
Well, my passion is it's my family. So as I mentioned, I have my husband of almost 43 years, and we have 2 grown daughters and 7 grandchildren. And I am so blessed that they live nearby. Each of them, they're like a half an hour away from us, but I feel so blessed to be a part of their lives and go to sports programs, because we have soccer, baseball, basketball, swimming, and dance and band. So I'm making the rounds, but it's such a joy, and I just feel so blessed. So they're my passion.
That's excellent. And so, speaking for your grandchildren and for the rest of our listening audience today, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our guest today has been Cathy Donaldson, Administrative Assistant at the NIAAA offices. Cathy, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Well, thank you, Mark. All right, take care. Bye.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.